Hey, what's up, folks? Today we're going to be joined by Kalen D. Alameda, reporter for Frontlines with Drew Hernandez, to talk about what he saw in East Palestine. He explored the site where it happened, he looked at the water on the ground, he talked to people there, and I know he'll give a clearer story than most media will give. Thanks for being here, folks. The show starts now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys for being here. I'm not on location, but I'm somewhere else. So the quality is going to be a little different. But Kalen from Frontlines is in East Palestine. He went there. And I know last time I was away for vacation and I'd only read stories and I said, I don't really know what to believe. Now we do because he's there. So, first of all, Kalen from Frontlines, thanks for being here.
Nominally, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah. So, I guess what have you seen? Because I saw one of the videos where it was like almost like a rainbow glow or some sort of leakage on the ground. Like, what's going on there?
So that's the question that everyone wants answered. The latest reports from Governor DeWine's press release, press pool, the information they're saying that they've tested the water, they tested the air, and no traces of vinyl chloride can be found. No, and then very low and minimal traces of a couple of these other chemicals that were present in the derailment. Are found in the water and in the soil, but I think it's bizarre that there's this oily substance that's in the streets. It's just in the streets. It's in the gutter water. And something else that we've also noticed, I noticed that there was a truck driving by, and today was the first day, or today and yesterday, it's been raining, and this is the first time that they've had any rain since the derailment and the burning off of all of that vinyl chloride. And I saw a truck that had a rainbow oil sheen. And then one of my colleagues noticed the same thing on our rental car. This is on the front windshield. So, it's a situation where I don't know that any of these people are really understanding what happened and what's going on, because they keep saying it's safe, but I'm seeing this and other people are seeing this, and talking to people on the ground, they want answers. They still want answers.
So, Kalen, he was there today for those who are just joining, come in a little late, and everybody sees, it seems like it's all over East Palestine, some sort of like residue that looks like rainbowy oily. It's got that weird like a color sort of glow coming from it, but the government says that nothing's going on. How many people did you talk to on the ground, and when you talked to them, what were they saying about it? Were there people that are like, oh, I don't care, or were they kind of like, yeah, this is not normal and we don't know what to do, or we don't know how bad this is?
Yeah, like I said, the people on the ground still are looking for answers, despite them being able to go back home, I think, after the fifth day or so. But I talked to a lady in Rite Aid, and she was telling me that she has a 9 and a 10-year-old, and they're going outside, and it's she's wondering, are my kids going to end up with cancer? Am I going to end up with cancer? She's at a crossroads where is she going to have to start over, because they just don't know. One thing I do know is that they are actively taking steps to block the water off from one of the rivers. There's a river that flows through where the spill was, and they have dammed it up on both sides and rerouted the rest of the water to go around. They're also removing soil and stuff like that. So they are cleaning up the area. The question is, has the damage already been done? Are these chemicals, how long are they going to be there? What are going to be, what are the residual effects from this disaster? And that's what a lot of people want to know. And I don't think that they're getting the answers that they want to get.
Well, we appreciate that you're there, because I briefly mentioned it without doing too much research. Some people got bothered, and maybe I could have worded it better. But basically, what I was saying is, obviously the EPA nobody trusts, like CDC, FDA. we put them in the same boat where I'm sure there's some good people there, but when they give an answer, we're not like, oh yeah, we believe them. No one does. But on the same side, I saw on Twitter yesterday someone was like, oh, all the air's blowing to New Jersey and it's in the yellow and it's so bad. I understand air pollution, yellow's not bad, and those numbers were not obscure. So you have some people kind of capitalizing on it on the independent media, trying to like, is the wind even going in that direction? Where it's like, let's be honest about where's it blowing, what's it doing. So that's the point I was trying to make. I wasn't trying to downplay and say it isn't happening or nothing happened at all. I just said I'm not really sure. So that's why we're trying to go with the facts. And there's nothing better than someone that was there today. Is anyone wearing masks? Is everyone concerned? Did you run into people that are like, oh, this is not a big deal? Or is everyone there just like no masks? No. And I'm not talking like COVID masks. I'm talking like the gas. Like, is anyone wearing gas masks freaking out or just like walking around being like, we don't know what this is?
I think for the most part, it's the last one. I don't think people really understand the full scope of this. And a lot of people are just continuing on with their lives. I've seen at most, your N95 respirators, which that's not going to stop whatever it is that
Right.
is in the air. So I haven't seen anyone that is like doomsday prepping or running around wearing hazmat suits or full blown gas masks or anything like that. I considered bringing something like that, but that was at least a couple weeks ago before I was sure what is actually going on. I can wear a mask all day long, but this stuff is gonna, if it's in the air or anything like that, it's going to get on my clothes, it's going to get on my skin. I just don't know.
Right.
And again, they just are still looking for answers. And that's kind of where everyone is at. They're told that nothing is wrong, it's totally okay. But we've all heard that before. We've all heard that before with many different things.
Right.
Um,
They lie
and,
about everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and anytime we look at the evidence, they tell us no, 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 no. You're looking at it from the wrong perspective, or you don't know what you're talking about because you're uneducated, and it turns into like a gaslighting situation. But who knows? 5, 10 years down the road, this entire community may be full of people who are mutating or have cancer of some kind because of this incident.
Yeah, we obviously hope not, but when, you're being reasonable from any way and say, hey, maybe, and they say, trust the science. We just lived through a 2-year propaganda campaign of them telling us not to believe our own eyes and ears and just believe Big Pharma and Rochelle Walensky. So when they tell people, oh, it'll be fine, like, yet they're also doing the same thing they did with like the COVID vaccines, where it's like essentially you're fine, but we honestly don't really know because we've never really done this. So, it's like the case study is now, but we do know nothing except for the fact that nothing will be wrong. Let's stick to like how much of that stuff is on the ground. Is it just a few spots or is it all over the city where it looks like oily? Like how prevalent is that in East Palestine?
Well, I'll tell you that the area in which I saw the the gutter with the oil in it, it wasn't just there in that one gutter. It was also a couple blocks down in a small stream in a parking lot. There was like a little bit of water running from one end of the parking lot to the other, and it was there too. Um, and I think the actual site is about a mile away. So you tell me it's like it's far enough away for me to think, if it's 1 mile away, then it might be 2 miles away, and it might be
Right.
3 miles away. I've heard testimony from someone on the ground saying that they don't even live in East Palestine. They live 3.5 miles away outside of East Palestine, and her daughter went outside, developed a rash she's never had before, and they went and ran all the tests with the doctors, and they had to leave their home, which was already 3.5 miles outside of um, East Palestine. So
Yeah, I was telling people the other day, and I wasn't trying to be rude about it. I know some people were upset, and that's fine because they're like, you took a vacation, you just like half-assed it a little bit. But I tried to say realistically, if you live there, you really have two options, like stay or leave, temporarily, full lot. So all I was trying to say is don't be scared. Don't, just figure out what you want to do, because if you're going to stay there, it is what it is. And if you want to temporarily leave, we lived in Los Angeles, or you lived near in general. And I was in LA, and there was crazy, I think like a plastic facility set on fire, an entire plastic facility got set on fire. The entire, like they show the East Palestine. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but the whole sky was filled with smoke. But nobody in Los Angeles cares. I actually used to wear gas masks before that, because I'm like, this isn't just a forest fire; it's a plastic facility fire, and no one cares. And it's like it never even happened. So I left the city. You know what I'm saying? I was like, let me leave for 2 weeks just to be safe. So if you're there, that's all I was trying to say the other day, is like, maybe it is worth it to leave for a couple weeks. Maybe it's not, but be at peace with your decision, and move forward like that, and don't just scare yourself. With that being said, how many people did you talk to on the ground, and what were some other stuff they were saying? Because I think that's something that you're not really going to get from a lot of other news sources. And for those wondering, Kalen can plug his social media. He's from Drew Hernandez Frontline Show, powered by TPUSA, and it's Kalen D. Alameda. So, and honestly, Drew's been great. Kalen's obviously great. They do a lot of like Savannah Hernandez. They're always literally, as the name says, on the front lines getting really dope stuff. So I'm glad Kalen came, and plug your socials after.
So I had I'll be honest, I caught a red eye flight there, and as soon as I got to the hotel, it was straight to East Palestine. And initially, I was there only to look for Pete Buttigieg, which I find out he's going to be there tomorrow. So that'll be interesting. But I really only talked to a few people. Savannah Hernandez and one of our other Frontlines reporters, Rebecca Brannon, were out there all day. So they talked to quite a few people. And the things that I did do while I was there, I did actually go to the site, and I did talk to one of the workers. There is a company that is working on the cleanup called HEPACO. And as they were at the site, I was taking some footage, and I noticed there were these large blue containers. They almost look like train containers, like you would see like transporting, goods like on a ship across the ocean. They almost look like that, except there's like pipes coming out of them, and they're completely sealed. And so, I went to ask, hey, I'm taking some videos and some pictures of these things. Like, can you tell me what they are? And the HEPCO employee actually was stopped by a supervisor from the company and was like, hey, if you have any questions, direct them to Norfolk Southern, because they're the ones that are going to be able to answer your questions. We're not allowed to tell you kind of anything that's going on here.
So they're being stopped. They're being stopped to tell the press workers that they're not even allowed to talk to. And who's that company that they told you to talk to? Is that their main?
Norfolk Southern is the company that owns or runs that train that was derailed.
I got you.
So this HEPACO, I told the guy, I said, listen, why don't you just tell me something off the record? Like, I know you want to tell me something. I know you want to. And he goes, well, I said, like, off the record. He's like, well, what does that mean? I said, it just means I'm not gonna publish anything in this tweet. So he goes, listen, we're collecting the water. I said, are you guys testing it? What are you guys doing with it? He goes, I don't know. So I thought that was a pretty interesting one. I talked to the lady at Rite Aid, and I mean, for the most part, it seemed like a lot of people were there really to see Donald Trump, because he's, in Ohio. It's a very red area. You can find more Donald Trump flags probably than American flags flying, to be honest. You could probably find more F Joe Biden flags than American flags, to be honest. So that area totally red. They totally love Donald Trump, and they were there to see him. But even the Amish came out. There's a big Amish population in that area, so they even came out to see Donald Trump. But as far as the work that I did on the ground today, it was limited in terms of talking to the citizens. But I have seen the work of my colleagues, And it is exactly kind of what I've been saying already. And really, it's almost like an echo chamber, pretty much. I haven't heard of anyone saying they didn't care, or, saying that it's not a big deal and it doesn't matter to them, or we're all going to die anyway. Um, so
Everyone's
I,
gonna
tomorrow we'll be talking to more people, and of course we'll be talking to Pete Buttigieg. Hopefully, we're going to press him on some of the important issues, like why was it so important for you, Pete, to go take personal time off? What does he even do, Pete? What do you even do, Piccolo Pete? That you should be taking time off when a former president who's not even in office is going to this place before you. So, those are the things that we're going to be pressing him on. But yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously anybody could go anywhere to score some political points, but whether, what the authenticity was or not, they really gave Trump some easy points there because Trump showed up. People like him obviously there. And I mean, that's Pete Buttigieg's job. He's Trump beat him there. That's a bad look. Biden was in Ukraine. That's a bad look. Did Biden even come yet or no?
No, and I don't think Biden would be welcome in this place at all. I don't think there's a soul around that likes Joe Biden in East Palestine.
Well, that's good news. But I mean, just seeing him in Ukraine, and this is the sort of thing I know my whole audience feels it. I'm not one of these people who hates Ukraine or hates the people. I'm sure there's beautiful people there. It's a sad situation. It's not my country. But you know how sickening it is as an American citizen to sit through a 2 year, like whatever big pharma lockdown vaccine campaign, and then they send a billion, then 10 billion, then 15 billion, hundreds of thousands of restaurants got closed. Everything's more expensive. Social media is censoring me, which is not only really annoying to get the information out there, but it's also my job, and I'm losing whatever the money is that they're taking from me, just like as they're bamboozling me. So they're taking money as everything costs more money. And then this huge environmental thing happens. And you have the president of the United States is in a foreign country giving money to a foreign leader that a lot of people don't like while the water is a different color. I mean, maybe I'm saying the obvious, but it's just like, it's like they step on your neck and just keep stepping and stepping and stepping. And the fact that Biden and Buttigieg got beat by Trump, yeah, Trump scored some easy political points, but it's only because they're that pathetic and that bad that Trump on his worst day outshines them. And that's obviously why people always liked him, because they set the bar so darn low that, I mean, walking with Zelensky at a time like this, giving money, I don't even want to think about it because I just get pissed.
I know. I don't know if you saw that where he says all across America, in cities and in the countryside, people are flying. I've never seen a Ukraine flag anywhere other than Twitter. To be honest, I've never seen it.
I've seen a few, but not
in the U.S. Like,
so.
I don't know what this guy's talking about, but yeah, the fact that he's not here, the fact that the Biden administration denied FEMA support for this disaster is pretty telling about where their priorities. It's like, well, maybe all that FEMA budget money is somewhere else.
Right. I have a question with what happened, because this is what somebody said. I was on a cruise. Someone had recognized me, so I started having drinks with, let's just say, some patriots. And he basically said, this was his theory, obviously, but he's like, America's at war, whether they want to admit it or not. The stuff that we're doing through Ukraine to Russia, like, we're waging war, whether they admit it or not. So his idea was like, the border's so open. It would be easy, even with the forest fires, it's a forest fire. Some of them are committed by illegals, and I'm not blaming every illegal person. Some of them are committed by crackhead homeless people. And then Gavin Newsom just says climate change, and he doesn't realize that most forest fires are committed by arson, no matter who it is. So it's so easy to terrorize America because we're such a pathetic country. But he was like, if we're waging war, I'm not saying that's what this is, but obviously some will say the emergency brake broke. Some will say Pete Buttigieg is incompetent. Some will say both parties are incompetent and nobody cares. Some will say it's just a mistake. Mistakes happen. Some would say it's planned or terrorism. I don't know what happened here, but what are you hearing from there? Like, what's the official narrative, and what do you think? because that he was like, I feel like other countries could easily be committing terrorism on us, and how do we ever know when everything's a conspiracy theory? If you say it, they'll just say it's not.
Right. So the official story is that there was an issue with one of the axles on the wheels, and there was, this was prior. It was known, and finally gave out. And then you have a train derailing and unloading, spraying toxic chemicals into the air. And I believe, if I read correctly, someone in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but this vinyl chloride stuff. Um, it turns into a vapor, I believe it at like regular, like very low temperatures. If that makes sense. So, at 8 degrees, it might turn into a vapor. Now it's in the air. And what they decided to do was burn all of it, which, turns it into another very dangerous chemical, which evidently was used in World War I, as a toxin. From what I've read. And what I think when it comes to the conspiracy theories, you can't just. It's hard to look at one incident and say, yeah, this is a conspiracy theory, unless it's like 9/11 or something. There's like so much, piles and piles of evidence to be like, yeah, that looks like an inside job. I think a lot of people could say that, but when you look at this, it's hard to say.
Right.
I think a lot of the people who are saying that it is a conspiracy, or that it is a some sort of warfare happening on American soil to like infrastructure, they're looking at multiple events that are all happening sort of at the same time. Like,
Right.
now there's some nuclear facility in Tennessee that they're having a fire, and it's got uranium. There's radiation. 200 employees have been evacuated. So I think if you're looking at all of this stuff simultaneously, and you're noticing a pattern, um, you know, it's something to be looked at. Trying to find the connection between all of these things, if there is one, is a whole nother thing. And you know, it's hard to say. So the official story is a broken axle, but could it be more? It's possible.
Here's what I'll say about like infrastructure. Obviously, mistakes are going to happen, just like cars crash. Even when they're right. I'm sure trains. It shouldn't be as much because it's on a track, but they do happen. It shouldn't though, because I mean, there's trains with like people on it as well. They could have had like a mass tragedy of that many trains if it were like a consumer or carrying people thing. But I will say this too, like say the forest fires. This is like the same sort of way it's happening. They let all the logs grow, and now there's hundreds of millions of dead trees. They let homelessness and crackheads just run rampant all over Los Angeles and all these cities, and then people start burning crap. And the Democrats blame climate change when they don't even look at the root problem of it. So it's just going to keep happening. And then if somebody from a foreign nation or a domestic terrorist or anyone did it, they know that they'd never, like, maybe they'd get caught, but for the most part, Gavin Newsom would just say climate change and try to raise more money. So it's like this cycle of like whatever it is, incompetence seems to be at a big thing where it's like if it is really just an axle, which could be obviously true, mistakes happen. Is it a mistake if our country is this pathetic? Like, are we even investing in infrastructure? If we could send $50 billion to Ukraine, can we spend $5 billion to build new? I know people are going to say build a wall in the comments, and also build new trains. You look at airports in other countries; they look like palaces. Ours look like third world countries. And so I've gotten off some airports. I'm like, I'm not a bougie person in that sense, but I'm like, this is pretty trashy. This is pretty inefficient. This is pretty gross. So, it's like even if there is no theory, it's like can we spend our money and make sure that we don't have broken axles on freaking like chemical trains? Because it's like, you know what I'm saying? That sounds like a bad excuse. Like people, I've taken a train 6 hours to go down, down south. It's like, oh, sorry, we had a broken axle and freaking everyone died. Like it could have easily been that story. And who knows, like with this one, how like it's hard to say if it's better or worse. Like nobody died off of it, but the effects are unknown. So, like is that something that you're thinking about talking to Pete about? Like, are you gonna make sure that this doesn't happen again, dude?
Right. So it comes down to finding the Pete's connection to this incident, right? Um, and he's tweeted that, now that this has happened, we're gonna be focusing on it. And it's kind of like, well, whose job was it before, and did they not prepare you um, to have a game plan for this sort of stuff? Was there no budget for you to deal with something like this? Like, what's going on? Is it Norfolk Southern's responsibility to make sure that their trains don't have broken axles? Was the axle broken because the literal railroad is decrepit? It's falling apart. Is it causing extra wear and tear on the actual trains themselves? Like, these are all questions, that I can speculate, but ultimately it's finding where Pete exactly should be held accountable, and pressing him on that issue. And if he refuses to answer, just follow that up with, if you're not serious about this job, when are you going to resign? Because you just did a whole talk about how people need to give up their jobs for diversity's sake. When are you going to do that? Because you're not doing anything here. The only time you're going to do it is when there's a disaster and there's pressure on you. Otherwise, you're off having vacation with your husband.
Pete Buttigieg is not the first loser in government, probably the last, but in general, I think he just got the job because he bowed out of the way for Biden and got out of the way for that regime. So it's like, here, you did that for us, you take this stuff. What does he know about transportation? But here's where I disagree with the right, not to be a contrarian, I just believe this. Is everyone would be like, oh, like act like Pete Buttigieg is the first problem. Yeah, he's incompetent. He probably knows nothing about what he's doing. But if it's not him, it's some other idiot or some other lobbyist and some other. And then the left and the right will say, well, it's the corporations, it's the government. And the truth is, a lot of corporations have no morality. A lot of them can't have morality because they have fiduciary duty in a system where they just have to make money. But at what cost? Like, oh, I could sell you trash, but I can profit off it. Like, we got to actually like each other to the point where we're not willing to like kill your fellow neighbor for a freaking penny. Like, that's how sad this country is. And then on the government side, I understand that Biden and Buttigieg are so pathetic that Trump is playing the hero today because he's out there allegedly bringing like McDonald's and water. I think water is a good idea. I would want to drink bottled water for the next couple months at least. But the McDonald's is, funny. Again, some people say it's unhealthy. Some people say it's nice. It's definitely a news story. But my thing is, this is like Trump put a shill at the EPA too. I'm sure Obama put a shill at the EPA, and everybody's just going to fight and act like you said. Is it the train? Is it the corporation? Is it a mistake? Is it incompetency? If it's incompetency, is it the train station's fault? Is it the train manufacturer's fault? Is it Pete Buttigieg's fault? Is it Biden's fault? Has this been going on under Trump? But what I just said is something that probably very few people will say. So it's just going to be like a circle jerk of political fighting, pointing fingers, and nobody's going to do anything about it. But where you're right and your team is right is Pete Buttigieg. It's his job right now. And if he doesn't want the position and he doesn't know what's going on, get out of the way and give it to somebody that's willing to step up to the plate. Because it's like being the manager of a team and they just lost. Like that's definitely his job now. That's for sure.
Yeah, in my mind, maybe some people have seen it. There is a video that's been circulating with the occurrence of all these train derailments. There is a video, and it's pretty shocking in my opinion, of a train. It's like a straight shot of a train, and you can see how crooked the railroad is. It's just like up and down. It's like somebody laid track on the surface of the moon, and now there's a train going across it, and the whole train is just teetering and back and forth down the railroad. And this is something where it's like they call him Pothole Pete for a reason, because he's not fixing anything.
Right.
And how much does it cost to find the areas that need maintenance and fix them? How much does it cost to do that? What does it take to do that? It doesn't seem like a difficult task to do. It almost seems like very basic stuff.
Right. Well, that's the problem with the government, though, is they don't care. And I even know, I'm not going to, point fingers, but I remember during the lockdown and stuff, they were even conservatives like, oh, it'll open back up. And I'm like, I'm not trying to fearmonger because it is what it is. I can't stop it. So I might as well just shut up. But really what I'm saying is like when they're spending trillions of dollars, do you know how much $1 trillion, if they wanted to, for sure, they could rebuild every train track in the country in 5 years probably and make it all nice. They don't give a shit because the train track industry doesn't fund them like Pfizer and these pharma manufacturers. They're not Boeing. They don't have weapons that cost $50 million to drop on a Muslim country and then just make a bunch more. So the truth really is they don't give a shit about infrastructure because there's no money in it for them. And God knows what Ukrainian kickbacks they're getting. We all know that BlackRock's getting like $800 billion. So even out of any theory, BlackRock's getting $800 billion. They got the contract in Ukraine. Who's getting money from BlackRock? What is BlackRock on? So it's just so infuriating because it's like you look at that, it looks like a roller coaster that's been like defunct because it doesn't work. And they drive trains on that crap for freaking 20 years until something like this happens. Like I know I'm preaching to the choir on my page, but like, why does no politician care? And like, how bad do things have to get till you even Canada? We can make fun of Justin Trudeau. They got some cool airports. Like America, they don't give a shit about infrastructure. We'll build a palace in Ukraine before we even rebuild our train tracks. I think that's a root issue for sure.
Going back to your airport comment, I flew to Miami, and I don't know if you've been to Miami or flown into Miami. Maybe somebody in the audience has flown into that airport, but I was like, I'm in the 80s or I'm in the 70s, and there's at least 50 people in this airport who have like a huge brick of cocaine. That's like what it felt like. It felt like the security was low, the infrastructure was low, the bathrooms were gross. Like there was probably, at least 10 guys in like the pink palm tree shirt with like chest on hair.
Dude, that's gonna be me.
Chest stuff,
oh, hey, be nice at the palm trees, bro. I'm a pink palm tree guy.
But
that's why they stopped off the cruises, bro. They think I'm a fucking excuse my language. They think I'm a coke dealer. I'm dressed like that. They pull me aside, check my suit. All right, guys.
Well, that or a boogaloo. They're looking for the firearms too. The ATF is looking for you. But
I'm a cruise guy, dude. I'm having too much fun. They think something's going on. It's coffee. That's it.
Yeah, but I think you made a good point. Five. Dude, any billion, like a billion of anything, $1 billion, a billion pesos could probably fix something. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's just not happening. And, we're going to press them tomorrow on that. And it should be good. I'm looking forward to it. I think a good thing just to know that people are displeased with you, man. People don't like you. And, it's because people are not that stupid. There are a lot of stupid people, but there are people who are paying attention, who are going to go and challenge guys like Pete. You've done it before, going to local city hall or town halls and making your voice heard. Hey, we're totally unimpressed and disappointed with what you're doing. And I actually encouraged one of the ladies that I did talk to. I said, hey, this guy's coming. You should go press into this guy,
Right. Two things I want to ask before you leave, and then make sure you plug your stuff at the end too. Thank you, Frontlines and Drew Hernandez. Not only Drew's had me on the show before, but I love the fact that I like you, Savannah, a lot. The fact that they let you guys work and go places. I mean, and thank you for going there. Super dope, important stuff. I want to say two things because these are two things that outside of like getting involved and saying stuff that could really help. I'll start with the easier one before I get hard. The easier one is, all right, Trump or DeSantis or whoever runs, can we get enough people to not just fight with the left, to be like, hey, when you get in Trump or you get in DeSantis or you get in whoever gets in, you got to spend $50 billion on infrastructure, rebuild the country, build the wall. I understand Congress is tough, but get it done this time. Stop hiring a bunch of idiots and deep state lurkers. Like, do something, because a lot of times the right just talks, then they get in, and it's like they're not even in office. You might as well have a Democrat because they're not doing anything. So it's like, how do we, one, make sure our side stays on our side, where it's like, you could have rebuilt those train tracks too. You didn't give a crap until something happened. I bet. And then two, people like Rosie O'Donnell are talking about BlackRock now. She's like, BlackRock owns everything. I'm like, based? Rosie, conspiracy, Rosie O'Donnell, like Rosie's back, baby. It's that baseball movie all over again with Madonna. I love that movie with Tom Hanks. I forget what it's called. But anyway, it's like that's what the left used to be. So if we could get left wingers to be like, listen, yes, the government is corrupt and they don't care about your health. Not just the EPA, but also, I'm sorry, leftists, but the FDA and Big Pharma, they're all doing this. Until enough people come together and demand change, they could always just be like, well, they're going to abort your kids. Well, they're going to take away abortion. Well, they wear red hats and they're fascists. Oh, well, they're communists. And everyone's going to fight. And like both sides are like, we're getting funded by the same lobbyist dummies, So it was kind of nice to see Rosie Based O'Donnell Jr., come out and say some like, oh, wow, talk about BlackRock. What? So is there a way the long two-part question, is there a way to get the right-wing base to actually get right-wingers to do something instead of just talking? And is there actually a time where it's going to get so bad that left-wingers are going to wake up? And then whether it's Trump or Biden, we can all come together and be like, you blew this, rebuild the train tracks, because if this crap happens again in 5 years, because our infrastructure sucks, like we're not playing this game again. Do you think those two things are possible?
I think that the priorities have to be aligned properly. So if it comes to infrastructure or it comes to anything, the person that gets into office, if it's a Republican, there needs to be pressure from the people, obviously. And what did JFK say? He said, don't ask what your country could do for you, but what can you do for your country? So that means, look, if you live in a place where there's a lot of problems, maybe get involved and bring some of these issues up to your local officials and leaders, because that stuff, with proper pressure and strategy will work its way up. There is some chain of command. If we're talking about some of these smaller things, if we're talking about stuff that the federal government needs to take care of, then, it's a lot of complaining and being loud. That's what the left does. The left totally loves to be loud and complain. And, the whole world has to stop for, a small percentage of people because they're so loud. It's just the right likes to, whether it's Donald Trump or Elon Musk or whoever, they like to take one person and then, oh, this guy's going to take care of everything. And then they just go back to like doing whatever. And then they don't pay attention and they just go, oh yeah, he said this, that was so based. And it's like, yeah, but like, what is he doing? Like, so what if he said something that was based? What is he doing? How is he going to fix this? And I think fundamentally between the left and the right, maybe Rosie O'Donnell, I don't know how you don't know. I don't know how you don't know that. How do you just figure out today in 2023 that BlackRock is a problem or Vanguard is a problem? Rosie has her head so far up her,
you could say the F word already, so you could.
Yeah. So yeah, she's got her head so far up her ass and is probably complaining about these dumb social issues that don't matter, that she's finally realized like, oh, but then listen, fundamentally the left and right view progress as two totally different things. For the right, a lot of conservatives, right? It's conservatives with conservative values. Progress is completing the I guess whatever serves best the American people, right? And on the left, it's like they're all globalists. They don't really care. It's kind of like, no, we have this so we can help them. And meanwhile, it's just like their own house is falling apart, and they want to tackle social issues. So I think there's a major disconnect between left and right. I couldn't tell you what was going to wake up the left. Like I'd have no idea, to be honest. What's going to wake up the right from just worshiping one guy? It's like they're always looking for the next like Jesus Christ. Like, look, Jesus Christ is Jesus Christ. Donald Trump is Donald Trump, and Elon Musk is Elon Musk. And you have to be part of the solution if you want things to change. In my opinion. So
even today, on that same note, it's like I know there's going to be a large section of people like this, small section of people that's like, oh, he had to say that, didn't he? Yeah, I did. But in general, it's like the story is like Trump brought McDonald's and water to East Palestine, where it's like, on one hand, that's better than what Buttigieg and the Biden are doing. But Trump was also president for 4 years and hired his own infrastructure. And clearly, I'm sure that was more than 4 years old. He didn't really do that much either. But people on the right are so into, like you said, characters that it's like, that's, oh my gosh, he won. I see people saying, he won me back. I was off the train because of all the stuff he did, but I'm back on the train because of that. Like, are you that easy to fool? Should I just go to East Palestine with water, raise $10 million and retire? I probably could. You know what I'm saying? I wish I had no ethics. Oh, here's a few water bottles, donate to me, and then I'll retire and be on an island somewhere. So it's like, we get these results because I think the right, in one, they just like certain characters, and on another thing, I think they just like to like react to the left, where it's like, at a certain point, we need to create our own narrative. Complaining about infrastructure that we didn't rebuild isn't as effective as rebuilding the infrastructure. Like Trump, one of the most popular things Trump ever said, among everything, was build a wall. Why? Because it's an infrastructure common sense thing that most adults understand, that no one seemed to do, but they talked about all the time. And I think he got some of it done, or maybe most of it done, but you've been there. There's so many freaking holes in it that it doesn't even work properly. But it's like, we can't even build the wall. And I'm not saying it's Trump's fault, but it's like, instead of reacting to losing and having Pete there, it's like, can we actually do something next time? I think you're right with the idle, like, oh, here, this guy's going to do it. Like, maybe, but maybe not.
Let me add to when we're dealing with like career politicians, it's their job to have problems to fix, right?
Mm,
That's like their job.
mm,
And what are you going to run on if you fix the problems?
mm,
So it's in kind of their best interest to never fix anything, right? Why
mm.
didn't the left ratify? That's the word, right? Ratify Roe v. Wade?
I think so. Like, yeah, like they said
Because
they would.
they want to run on it forever, for eternity. They want
Mm,
to have that for eternity. Why didn't the wall get built? Because we want to run on that for eternity. So,
mm.
looking at things from a wider scope, you can see like, hey, maybe this is a possibility. Maybe everyone's a scumbag. Maybe some of these people who are, total anarchists and just want to take over, there has been many groups that have, taken over the White House. It was the Black Panthers. It was the J6 people. There has been people like Susan Rosenberg who wants to blow stuff up. Like, there are people who do these kinds of things because they have come to the end and they have seen that, look, nothing is changing. It's going to go on and it's going to go on and it's going to go on until we've had enough, or we can't do anything about it anymore. Like that's where we're at, I think.
The word was codify. Someone brought it up. So
Codify. There you go.
Roe versus Wade. That's a really good point, though, because like the left, if you aren't like 15 or brain damaged or even television, you're like, listen, okay, even if you hate Republicans, you're like, the left has like no substance. They literally run on what they're not. Like, we will not abort. We will let you abort, and they will take it away. And if they codified it, that goes away. So what else do they really have to run on? Like, Orange Man bad, and Ron DeSantis man hung out with Orange Man. In 10 years, it's going to be like, Orange Man was friends with that friend. You're like, dude, I work at Starbucks. I'm a barista. They're like, well, you're a freaking fascist because you voted for Trump. Like, that's all they have is what they're not. So that's why I was giving you like a black church, like,
just one more for the back, dude. One more for the guy in the back.
It's true. Or it's even when COVID happened, the left helped win the election with, oh, we're going to fix and people were like, oh, Trump's doing such a bad job of the economy. And like, they get in, like, COVID doesn't disappear. And then like, Trump's like, it's worse. And they're like, yeah, of course, Joe Biden's not going to solve COVID-19. Like, how stupid are you? But people really are that stupid. Like, it's bad. This guy will do better. Why would he do better? And then like the things are going up and it's like, yeah, of course. Like, what, you think Joe Biden's like a professor of alchemy? Like, he's going to stop the dude doesn't know he doesn't even know where he's at. But people buy into the problem, reaction, solution sort of thing of like, there's a problem. He'll fix it. He never fixed it. And then the Mr. Fix-It's back and making America great again. But you have to make it great again because you didn't make it great the first time. But it's their fault. It's getting obvious, to me at least. And people think it's like a knock. They're like, oh, what are you, a liberal? I'm like, no, I just see that that's why I'm like, for Buttigieg, you guys got to ask him questions. For the Trump administration or DeSantis or whoever wants to get in, we have to stop playing the game. Whoever gets the nominee, I'm not going to cry. I'm an adult, whether it's Trump or DeSantis. At this point, it doesn't even really matter to me. I just want people to stop fantasizing over like Fantasyland, Candy Stand, thoughts in their head and be like, listen, put together a plan to rebuild the infrastructure because I don't want you to show up with McDonald's in 2042 when another train crashes. That's and people don't see it and they think I'm hating. I'm not hating. It's just like the jig is up. Both parties need to smarten up because it is like a hot potato and purposely not solving it because then it kind of leaves you vulnerable to like, I don't think the Democrats have an agenda if they can't keep those three things. Why is someone calling my hold on a second. I mean, I don't even know what to do. You could just talk real quick because I'm.
Yeah. It's the Uber Eats guy. He's outside. But yeah, he's gone. But yeah, I just fundamentally, right, going back to the left and the right, like the right wants the resources, the infrastructure. The right wants the country to be better, right? We want to fix everything up. We want everything to be nice. We want all of the good deals. And that was some of what Trump was doing. He was doing the wall. He was changing stuff with tariffs and doing away with NAFTA and things that were bad for the country that kind of just exploited, us. But on the left, they are all about the Green New Deal. It's all about let's get rid of trains. It's all about let's get rid of jets. But at the same time, it's like, but we'll keep our jets. You can ride bicycles and never see your grandma again on the other side of the country.
Pete Buttigieg called me. He was like, can we have a piccolo party in your room? I was like, bro, what? Shouldn't you be in East Palestine? You crazy. All right. Let people know. I don't know who the frick is calling me, but let people know where they can find you real quick because I was going to end it and then I'll talk. All right. Kaylin, thanks for joining. Let people know.
Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram. The handle is the same, at From Kalen, FROMKALEN. Make sure you check out Frontlines with Drew Hernandez on Rumble. You can also check out Drew's personal Rumble channel. That's where he goes super, super hard, in my opinion. Most people leave their podcasts at like a level 7. He takes it up to a 10. So definitely check that out. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at From Kalen, FROMKALEN.
All right, thanks, Kaylin, for joining. I don't know what's going on. I'll call in a second, but I had a few. Obviously, people know I was on vacation for a second, but I've been doing meetings and stuff, some pretty possibly exciting stuff. At this point, any sort of business meeting or anything, I just assume it's not going to work out. Not because I'm pessimistic, because it just usually doesn't, and it's not. I'm not going to Steven Crowder them, be like, oh, I recorded everything, and they were. It's like if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to cry about it. But in general, it's been some interesting stuff. So I'll be back with like my full setup, like extremely, extremely soon. Thank you guys for that. Thank you, Kaylin, for joining, and definitely check out his stuff. It's really cool that they're in East Palestine because a lot of people wouldn't want to go. And the only way to really get the story of what's happening, like with your own eyes and own ears, is to go. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I'll say also, it smells bad. It's a bad smell. It's a very bad smell when you get close to that site. I forgot to mention that earlier. I think it's a bad chemical odor, like nasty. So, all right, guys.
All right, thank you guys so much.